Imagine a powerful emperor commissioning a piece of sacred art. He would expect majesty, reverence, and a depiction that upheld tradition. What he received instead was a vision so raw, so intense, so profoundly human, that it pushed the very limits of religious painting. This is Titian's Christ Crowned with Thorns, painted in 1543. It's a work that broke unspoken rules. Commissioned for none other than Emperor Charles V, this painting sparked a quiet, yet profound controversy about what sacred art could truly be. How did Titian's audacious vision challenge the artistic and religious establishment of his time? And what lasting impact did its dramatic realism leave on history? Francisco Vecellio, known as Titian, was an undisputed master of the High Renaissance. By the 1540s, he had reached the zenith of his career, celebrated across Europe and serving as the favored painter of emperors and kings. His command of color, light, and dynamic composition was unparalleled. Yet, even for an artist of his stature, this particular portrayal of Christ's Passion is notable for its direct, almost confrontational emotional presence. The historical context of its creation is essential to understanding its impact. This painting was commissioned for Emperor Charles V, who was not only the King of Spain and Archduke of Austria, but also the Holy Roman Emperor, effectively the most powerful secular ruler in the Christian world. Charles V was known for his deep personal faith and his strong belief in the dignity of his imperial role. For such a patron, one might typically anticipate a depiction of Christ that emphasized divine serenity or stoic endurance, a vision reflecting the emperor's own ordered and powerful domain. However, Titian delivered a more dynamic and human portrayal, intended for deeply personal devotion. Traditional artistic conventions for depicting Christ's crowning with thorns often favored a more composed, suffering Christ, perhaps resigned to his fate or looking heavenward. These scenes were typically solemn, reverent, and aimed at inspiring pious contemplation through quiet dignity. Titian, however, chose a distinct approach. In this canvas, Christ is presented not with overt stoicism, but with visible emotional intensity. His form is subtly engaged, and his brow shows a clear response to the thorns. The figures surrounding him are not static onlookers. They are depicted in active, muscular poses, creating a sense of powerful movement. One figure, with a raised club, is positioned as if to strike, his arm forming a strong arc. Another appears to exert force to press the crown. There is a palpable sense of immediate, vigorous action. This dynamic, almost theatrical rendition of the event was a significant departure from the more restrained, contemplative approaches often seen in earlier religious art. Titian's focus on intense realism was innovative. He chose to depict the human aspect of the moment without idealization. Christ's torso is visible, conveying vulnerability. The expressions on the faces of the surrounding figures communicate concentration and effort. This directness, this decision to represent the scene with such immediacy, would have been deeply impactful, and for some, perhaps unusually direct. It was an art that aimed for an immediate, emotional resonance. This emphasis on intense emotional realism was part of a larger debate within the Catholic Church, then embroiled in the Reformation. Protestant reformers often criticized Catholic art for what they perceived as excessive emotionalism or distraction. In response, Catholic art often intensified its emotional and dramatic realism, seeking to inspire profound devotion and counter Protestant critiques through powerful visual narratives. Titian's Christ Crowned with Thorns is a prime example of this counter-Reformation spirit, but its heightened emotionality could also prompt discussions about whether such a direct portrayal of humanity was sufficiently dignified for sacred representation, particularly for an emperor's private chapel. The composition itself contributes to the work's distinctive quality. It features a swirling, diagonal design that draws the eye into the action, making the viewer feel almost present. The figures are closely grouped, creating a sense of contained energy. This active, dynamic composition, with its powerful diagonals and skilled foreshortening, was pushing the boundaries of traditional religious painting. It moved beyond serene contemplation towards an immersive, active engagement with the narrative. The paradox of its patronage further highlights its unique position. Charles V was a profoundly devout Catholic, but also a man who valued the absolute authority of his imperial power. For him, a painting of Christ that underscored human vulnerability, rather than solely divine majesty, likely served a deeply personal devotional purpose. perhaps prompting reflection on Christ's humility in contrast to his own vast temporal power. Yet such a depiction, if it had been widely displayed, could have been seen as revolutionary in its emotional candor, daring to temper some of the traditional, idealized grandeur associated with divine figures. Titian's bold decision was to present a Christ who was powerfully human. This painting's profound influence on subsequent art is undeniable. Its emotional intensity and dramatic realism laid groundwork for the Baroque era, a period characterized by its theatricality, heightened emotion, and direct appeal to the viewer's feelings. Titian's innovative choices here set a new standard for religious art, demonstrating that profound spirituality could be conveyed not just through idealized beauty, but through a direct and compelling representation of human experience. It encouraged artists to depict sacred narratives with an artistic honesty that was always powerful. Titian's Christ Crowned with Thorns remains a significant masterpiece precisely because it challenged comfortable expectations. It presented a vision of divine experience that was profoundly human, dramatically dynamic, and intensely psychological. It commanded an emotional response, inviting viewers to engage with the narrative in a way that was both deeply personal and artistically innovative. This enduring power to provoke and question secures its place not just as a great work of art, but as a pivotal moment in the history of religious iconography. This extraordinary painting continues to prompt contemplation on faith, humanity, and the evolution of artistic expression. Its profound honesty continues to resonate. If this deep dive into art history's most powerful messages is compelling, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more thought-provoking content. Thank you for watching.